So, welcome. For those of you that have been following my reviews, once in a while I mention that I work at the Utah State Prison, and I've worked there for quite a while. And just to begin this video, sometimes, at the prison we see disturbing things. I've seen murder scenes, I've seen suicides, I've seen a lot of fights, a lot of gangster activity, and sometimes it can be quite traumatizing. And I just thought I would share a story with you here before we begin this review, and of one of the most memorable kind of incidents that I was a part of. Where I was in the gang unit, and there was an inmate, a really big, muscly. I mean, he was a tough gangster, and he was pissed off at me. I don't know what I had done to piss him off, but man, he was going after me, and verbally just coming at me with all sorts of I'm paroling soon. I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna, you're the worst officer that has ever worked here. You're the biggest asshole that's ever worked here. And I didn't know what I had done. I was always respectful to the inmates, but man, this guy was upset with me for whatever reason. And he just went off, and all the other gangsters were around, and it's like he was just like, man, when I get out of here, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna kill you. Kill all your family. I'm gonna rape your sisters, and I'm gonna rape your wife, and I'm just gonna come out there because you suck so much, and I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna make sure I find you because you were the worst, most useless, fat-faced officer that we've ever had. And I said, wait, hold on a minute. I said, you think I have a fat face? He's like, yeah, you got a fat face. And I said, man, that really hurts. And then the other gangsters started taking bets on how much I actually weighed. They were out there, I bet Sergeant Durfee weighs 500 pounds. I bet he weighs 350. I bet he weighs 290. And I was like, dudes. But anyway, I was traumatized by that statement. I could care less. You're gonna find me and kill me afterwards. Just don't tell me I have a fat face. That ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right. We're reviewing Thinner by Stephen King. Thinner. Everybody wants to be thinner. Even us correctional officers. Thinner, man, that's where it's at. Thinner. We got the hardcover up here. As you know, I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press, and this is my video channel where I am reviewing every Stephen King novel in order of publication. We are to Thinner right now. When this was originally written, it was one of those Richard Bachman books where Stephen King wrote it under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman. And now it's since been published under his regular name, Stephen King. But it originally came out as a Bachman book. You can see right there. I've got the hardcover, the original Bachman hardcover. Now everybody knows that Richard Bachman's Stephen King, so we just call it Stephen King Thinner. What do I think about the book? I've been reviewing each of these books as I review them, I'm reading along to the Audible.com narration. The Audible.com narrator was an actor named Joe Mantegna. He did a fantastic job with the narration. However, I gotta say, along with the narration, whoever produced it put this stupid, awful, what they thought was creepy music layered over the top of Joe Mantegna's narration in all the really tense spots. So you couldn't almost even hear Joe Mantegna's narration because we had this bullshit music playing over the top of it. So I give Joe Mantegna a 10 out of 10 on the narration, and whoever produced the Audible version gets a 0 out of 10 because don't do that shit. Don't layer over music over the top of the narration just because you think it's clever. Because it ain't clever. It ruins the story. It makes it suck. It really does. So that's my opinion on that. Let's get to Thinner itself by Richard Bachman or Stephen King. I was bored by this book. It's about a guy who gets thinner. It's about a guy on a diet. It's about a guy who's losing weight. And everybody's like, whoa, you're losing so much weight. And he's like, man, I can't figure it out. Some gypsy, I ran over her with a car. And, I didn't get charged with manslaughter because I'm an arrogant lawyer and I'm a prick and I had my buddies in the police force get me out of the charge. And then her dad came up, and he's a gypsy too, and he says, "Hey man, thinner," and disappears. Next thing I know, I'm getting thinner. I was like, fat. Now, Stephen King calls the guy obese. He starts out at the obese weight of 250 pounds. I'm 230 right now. I guess in Stephen King's book, I'm kind of obese. I know that the inmates at the Utah State Prison think I got a fat face. So, I mean, when I'm like this, 250 pounds obese, I'm like, God, man, that's about what I weigh, man. It ain't fair. This ain't fair, man. It ain't fair. They're picking on me everywhere. Go to prison, they pick on me. Read a book, they're telling me I'm fat in the book. It is ridiculous. I can't take it. I can't take it. I was bored with this thing. It's about a guy who loses weight. And a little side story with the mafia. That didn't make things any better for me. You know, unless I'm at a banquet in Tony Soprano's backyard, I don't want to hear about the mafia. I mean, I love the Tony Soprano's house. I mean, I would go to one of that man's barbecues. I really would. I would go to that man's barbecue. In fact, I'm making this video in the middle of the COVID-19 coronavirus shutdown. All the buffets in my town are shut down. I'm starving to death over here, folks. I'm starving to death. You know, I used to go to them buffets all the time. You know, let's get rid of the book for a second. Let's not even talk about it. I didn't like it. The buffet. So I'm at the buffet one day by myself, and I'm sitting in a booth, and there's a booth. You know, there's no one there's my table and the bench across from my table, and then nobody's sitting in the booth over there, right over from mine. And then this single lady and her kid, this little girl come in, and they sit in the booth, and the little girl's got a plate of salad, and she's like, "Mom, I don't want salad. I don't want salad. I want cake, and I want macaroni and cheese." And they sit in that booth right there in front of me. And the mom's like, "You eat your salad first, and then you can have all the mac and cheese and cake you want." And then the mom goes back to the buffet area to get her food. Meanwhile, they leave the kid there alone in the booth across from me. And what I see rising up over the chair in front of me, there's this salad plate, and this little girl, man, she dumps that right over her head into my booth, into the seat, right, into the bench right across the table from me. Her salad. All the salad, the tomatoes, all the salad fixins and dressings spread all over just dumped into my booth. And I'm like, did that little kid just do that? And then the little kid must have thought to herself, uh-oh, what if somebody was sitting back there? So I see her little eyes poke up over the bench, and she meets my eyes and I meet her eyes, and she goes back down, right? And I'm like, the mom comes back, sees the empty plate. "Oh, you ate your salad while I was gone. Wow, I didn't think you would eat it that fast." And the kid was like, "I ate it. I ate the salad." And I was thinking to myself, the kid's going with it. The kid's going with the lie. Going with the lie. Meanwhile, the buffet server comes, sees my booth, that their salad looks like I've just talked. It looks to her like I've just got a plate of salad and tossed it across the table and spread it all over. She looks at me and I'm like, "Hey man, I sorry, I spilt my salad. I fell on the sword for the little kid. I fell on the sword for the little kid. I took the blame." I said, "Yeah, I spilt my salad." The poor server cleaned it up, and anyway, as I'm walking away, I finished my dinner. As I'm walking away, I walk past that booth, and I look down at that little kid, and she looks up at me, kind of like with that look like, "Hey man, thanks for having my back." And I was like, man, I gave her that look like, "Hey, anytime. I love buffets. The book Thinner, 6.5 out of 10. I gave it basically a 6.5 out of 10. It was what it was. It's about a guy on a diet, written by Stephen King. Tony Soprano shows up once in a while. But the guy loses weight. That's all that happens. He loses weight. He gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And then the end. Spoilery. The end. It ends with him getting thinner. Anyway, 6.5 out of 10. Every book I write, I dedicate to Stephen King, Motley Crue, and the Oakland Raiders, because those were the three most important things to me when I was a kid. Despite my kind of negative review of Thinner, I love everything Stephen King. Don't get me wrong, man. He's my guy. He's my guy. Love him, love him. 6.5 out of 10. Thinner, Stephen King. Go get it. Say goodbye, Marshawn Lynch. Say goodbye, Mr. Skittles.